Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 3, Episode 10, this episode entitled Fascination. It first aired November 28th, 1994. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about the previous episode, Defiant?
No, it was perfect.
I'd just like to apologize for being terrible on that episode, but that episode of the show left me very cold, and I found it miserable to watch and miserable to talk about. Very disappointing.
You were not full of the usual energy of podcasting.
I did not enjoy it. And by the way, come on IMDb people, which gave that episode a very high score.
Well, they might have all been Defiant fanboys like me, so...
Awful. Maybe it was a bad day.
Could be.
All right, well, let's move on to episode 10.
Absolutely. I am ready.
In the cold open, Jake is pouting in his quarters because Marta, his booby older girlfriend, has been accepted into the Science Academy on Regulus 3.
Oh no, Jake is grumpy. His girlfriend's gone to college.
Yeah, and, they still want to try to convince me that she really is smart. Sometimes the writers of the show, they're just ridiculous. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
She's an entomologist.
The school is 300 light years away, so Jake is depressed. Sisko says he'll find a new girlfriend, which does seem difficult on a station with very few people in his age bracket, including Marta.
And people leaving the station because it's under threat from the Dominion.
Right. Well, anyway, Sisko is like, maybe you'll meet someone at the Bajoran Gratitude Festival tonight. And we learned that the point of this festival is to put all of your troubles behind you and make a new start. Jake agrees to go, but he says, I won't have any fun. It's like, okay.
9 out of 10 on the grumpy teenager scale.
Oh, totally. He's very pouty.
When I was that age, he probably would have just put on some Smiths and been moping around.
Yeah, there's no depressing music playing.
Yeah.
Well, now we go to the Replomat, and Bashir is giving Miles a hard time about having his 5th cup of coffee in 20 minutes. That is a lot. When Miles complains about Julian counting his coffees, Julian says, he's both nervous and irascible, which is a word I had to look up, and it means easily annoyed. And that is Miles every day, so I don't know what's different, but really, drinking 5 cups of coffee in 20 minutes might make you irritable.
I think this is the Futurama episode.
What is that?
Where Fry drinks 100 cups of coffee in one day.
Oh, that's not good. I assume that doesn't have a happy ending.
Oh, he turns into the Flash at the end.
Oh, that's funny. I did not see that episode, or I have forgotten. I may have seen it. Well, anyway, Keiko and Molly are coming to the station for a visit after being away for 2 months. They'll only be here for a few days before heading back to Bajor for another 4 months. This whole thing is weird, right? Why would she only be able to come back after several months? He made a point of saying Bajor was only a few hours away.
Yes.
So it seems like they need to see each other a little bit more to keep this marriage on track. Are there no weekends in space? What?
No.
What is the deal with this?
All the transporters are broken. He can't get a shuttle, and there's no way of getting to Bajor. None of this makes sense.
No, it's very fishy.
I'll rant about that later.
Okay. Julian points out they've played 70 games of racquetball in the 2 months since Keiko has been away, and he feels like a poor substitute for Miles' wife, which Miles agrees with.
Yes. I could have told you that 60 games ago.
Right. Julian has a deeply furrowed brow in this scene, which I've not seen him do before. So either he's aging and is starting to get wrinkles already, or the Botox has worn off, or I don't know, or else he's really trying to portray something in this scene. There's something of worry.
I don't think they had
face.
Botox back then.
It's the future. It's space.
So would they have Botox in the future, even though they didn't have it back then?
I bet they had it back then. It was probably just called something else. It's just botulism. That's been around for a long time.
Back then, it just killed people.
Yeah, they didn't know that they could use it for wrinkles. Out on the promenade, Odo finds Kira decorating for the festival, and they say Peldor joy to each other. And Kira looks so happy with a big smile on her face.
She really does seem happy. It's so good to see a happy Kira after all the crap that's happened to her for 3 seasons. I don't think we've ever seen her this actually happy.
That's true. Well, they talk about how in a few hours the place will be packed with people celebrating the festival. Odo very awkwardly tells her he's thinking of joining the festival for a change. And she's very happy to hear this. And even though she's the presider of the festival, she'll make time for him.
Oh.
Although Odo is visibly disappointed to hear that Vedic Bareil is joining the festival and he's arriving on the next shuttle.
He is very confused about his feelings for her, isn't he?
He is very confused, yes. She does not seem confused. He seems very confused.
She seems to miss them completely.
I find it really easy to be friends with people of all genders at my workplace. I don't know. Maybe that's just how she is too. She's just feeling like they're friends and it doesn't seem strange to her. But he has got these confusing feelings about her and doesn't really know what to do with them. They're not reciprocated in any way. He is obviously jealous in particular situations, but he doesn't even know what to do with that. It's very awkward for him. Absolutely.
He's very emotionally undeveloped as an individual, I think, is a big part of the problem.
He is. And, you know, the station could really benefit from a counselor.
Oh.
Because someone could be helping him work through these things. I mean, he would be crotchety about it, but I think he would benefit from it.
Troi would be awesome on this station.
She would be, yeah. I think she could have definitely helped him.
Don't go criticizing my counseling style.
First contact.
Yeah.
It also would have been an opportunity to do something more useful with that character because she was underutilized, really, until the movies.
Yeah.
So Kira now joins Miles waiting for the arrival of the shuttle. And did you see the purple chairs in the waiting area here?
Oh, I missed the purple chairs.
It's like an airport arrival gate or something with all of these chairs. And there's one dude sitting in the back of the room, just sitting there awkwardly staring into space. That was funny. It's like, who's that guy? I wonder if he's still sitting there. Well, Bareil is the first one off, and he's in his boring orange robe, and he and Kira head off together. And then Keiko comes out carrying Molly in one arm and a giant bag in the other arm, looking like a very tired traveling mom.
Oh, gosh, that is a look. If you've ever been to airports, you've seen a million times.
Absolutely. She says she's had the worst trip, and she flops down really rudely right in the middle of the exit gate. Why would you do that? Don't do that. It's like the people who stop at the end of an escalator. Don't do that. Get out of the way. There's like all those chairs. Go sit in the chair.
I did notice somebody walked past her.
Yeah, he comes up behind her and is like, oh, and then has to step around her. Why would you sit in the middle? It's so stupid. She wouldn't do that. Well, Miles is happy to see them, and he asks Molly if she's ready to have a good time with her dad. And Molly says, no, with the cutest, saddest face I've ever seen in my life. It's just heartbreaking. She says, I don't feel so good, and then immediately pukes all over Miles, which is terrible. And then out comes Lwaxana Troi in a purple gown and a colorful headpiece and massive earrings.
Looking 100% Lwaxana.
And she says, oh, you poor dear. I shouldn't have given you so much candy. And Keiko rolls her eyes.
Lwaxana is just trouble wherever she goes.
Yeah. And the contrast here of Keiko's very smart fitted outfit and Lwaxana's outlandish, like huge outfit is quite a sight.
She looks like a play on Carmen Miranda.
A little bit with that weird thing on her head.
Yeah.
Well, we cue the theme song. I definitely feel bad about how they always make Lwaxana so unlikable in situations like this. You know, she raised children, or at least one child. I'm not sure how would she have no sympathy for another mother. She's written so one-dimensionally in many cases like this.
I think it is odd that somebody who's a telepath doesn't really have any empathy for the people around her.
That is such a good point. And anytime she's involved in a story where something kind of heartfelt or real happens, that's when she's good. That makes the character interesting. The actor actually excels in those situations. And, you know, I want to watch her. But why couldn't they write it the other way around where those major things are the lead and the goofy stuff is the side story? But that's not what happens. The goofy, awkward stuff is the main story always. And then the little heartfelt thing is just a small thing that happens at the end.
I think that's because it's fallen into a pattern of, oh, it's Lwaxana, we've got to do something funny or silly.
Yeah,
and not concentrating on the fact that Lwaxana can be a great character when you use her well.
It's a bit like Keiko. She's not on it enough to be a fully fleshed out character. And so they have to bring her on for conflict. And then you're like, wow, this marriage is terrible because that's all you ever see is the conflict.
Right.
Also, I made note here that it's so interesting to me how there are no improvements to luggage in 300 years.
What do you mean? They all carry their own bags now.
They all carry their own bags. They look just like the same kind of luggage we have now. I mean, wouldn't they just be hovering or, wouldn't they have their own propulsion system or like even a vacuum cleaner propels itself nowadays? Why couldn't they do that with the luggage in 300 years in the future? That's the kind of things I focus on because I don't want to be carrying my bag.
Self-propelled, hovering luggage.
Yeah, we have transporters, but we're still carrying our luggage. I'm suspicious. Also, really, I would think the stuff would just be transported right to the quarters or something.
Interesting. Well, to be fair, DS9 was built as a mining and ore refining station, so it wouldn't have really any facilities for handling luggage or passengers. This is kind of a bolted-on thing. Now it's become civilian use.
Well, this is an upgrade they need to make. They need to sort out the luggage handling facilities. Because now it's just like a hotel resort.
It's a very odd resort.
It is a very odd resort. All right, we talked about luggage enough. We can carry on. Now we go to security, and Odo is giving instructions to someone about keeping an eye on Quarks while he's attending the festival. In comes Lwaxana, who we remember was a bit in love with Odo the last time they met back in season 1 in the episode called Forsaken. She immediately makes Odo exceedingly uncomfortable. She chases off the other security guy, who, by the way, has no lines, only facial expressions, which I found very funny.
I felt bad for the NPC. I was watching thinking, is he going to get a line? Is he going to get any lines? No.
He had many facial expressions.
He got a nod, though.
He did. Odo steps back from her, but that doesn't really deter Lwaxana. She's here as the official Betazoid representative at the Gratitude Festival. I have a very hard time believing that Odo wouldn't know exactly who is on the attendee list or exactly who is on the shuttle. I don't see how he would be surprised.
I would expect that as an ambassador, she could pull strings and make it a surprise.
Maybe.
That's what I'm thinking.
Anyway, she also heard about how Odo finally learned his origin story, only to find out he comes from the awful founders. She's there to be a shoulder to cry on or a lap to melt in. But Odo says he's learned to accept that his people are who they are and he is who he is. She heads off to freshen up for the festival and says she'll meet him there. But before she leaves, she says, I promise you, Odo, you'll never be alone again, which freaks him out. He rolls his eyes. Such a caricature of a real person.
He's so shocked by her attention.
Yeah, he does not know what to do with it, which is a little different from how it ended in The Forsaken.
Yeah.
He'd kind of accepted her and, understood the outlandish part of her wasn't the real side. And then they just throw that out the window and start it over.
Yeah, that does point to a little inconsistency.
Yeah. Well, she heads out, but when she gets into the turbo lift, she gets some kind of a pain in her head, which can't be good. Nobody on TV gets a pain in their head without something very bad following it.
Correct. Rule 101.
Yeah. Now we're in Kira's quarters, and she has her sexy hair, which really just means the sides are kind of pushed a little bit forward and her bangs are looser than normal.
Yep.
And she's making out with Bareil. Again, he's in his orange monk robes, which is the opposite of a sexy outfit. And really, is this all he wears? I mean, is it clean? Now I have this hygiene concern, and I'm worried that it smells. I mean, come on. It's just weird.
Well, Kira just likes guys in robes.
Does she? Who else did she like in a robe?
I'm making a generalization.
Oh, I see. Well, and she's like in this great outfit, which is so opposite of him. And I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah, his is a little dumpy.
Yeah.
It's sort of, he's wearing a toga.
An orange toga.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't seen each other much lately because Kai Wynn made Bareil one of her principal advisors. Kira says it's probably so that she could hear his advice and then never take it. He says, the office has changed, Wynn. The prophets chose well. I'm not buying the story. I'm going to need some real evidence. I mean, she should have been in this episode.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been a great one.
Remember that migraine vision that Bareil had where he was kissing her? That would have made a lot of sense in this episode.
Oh, funny. Kira could have asked if she's become more evil.
She could have.
Maybe that's how she's changed. She's become more devious, so you can't see how evil she is.
Well, she's learned to hide it. She doesn't have to be as outwardly manipulative anymore because she's got what she was after.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. But putting Bareil in a senior position is probably a smart idea because he seems pretty smart and very genuine. So if he comes up with good ideas or does something great that raises a lot of popularity, then she can always take the credit for it.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a good idea that I told Bareil to do whatever?
Yeah, for sure.
You know she's one of those people. All successes are her victories, and all failures are somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Having worked with someone like that.
Yeah, we all have. Well, Brielle is trying to make out, but Kira has to go do a bunch of festival-y setup things with Jadzia. Brielle says he's never understood how the two of them could be such good friends when Jadzia is so unpredictable and Kira is so, predictable, Kira says.
Think very carefully about what you're going to say to your girlfriend there.
It's not the way to convince your girlfriend to hang around.
Yeah.
But we also know that this line has been said for some reason that will become clear later.
Yeah.
And it's also like a weird way to talk about your girlfriend's friends. I mean, you should just want them to have friends. I don't know. It's just a weird.
Don't criticize your girlfriend's friends.
It never works to do that. Over in the O'Brien quarters, Molly is feeling better, but Keiko is frazzled. Miles says they should get ready for the festival, but Keiko is very tired and needs a nap. And then they bicker about whether she should take a nap, and he says he just wants to know what she wants. She wants someone else to make decisions, so he says they'll go to the festival and she should change into something nice like her red dress. And nobody's winning any prizes with talking to their significant others yet in this episode.
Nope. Have they been married very long? Because I feel if you can't spot when your wife has had a really difficult trip and is exhausted, then it makes me question the whole basis of your relationship.
And you say you should put on something nice.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they discuss how this red dress is tight, and that's why Miles likes it. That's actually kind of cute. And anyway, there's a lot of bickering, and she's tired. She's also being quite unpleasant, and Miles doesn't really know what to do.
Probably because your wife is exhausted from an awful trip.
It's a big mess of a scene. Just let her rest.
Yeah.
Though I relate to that comment she made about, I don't want to make any more decisions today. I'm pretty sure I've said that to you.
Oh, yeah.
There are days where it's just like, can someone just hand me something? I don't want to think about it. I don't want to figure out what to have for dinner. I made 1,000 decisions during the day. So I get that, but I don't get the rest of her attitude. If you're tired, just say you're tired. Go take a nap.
Yeah.
You don't have to be bitchy about it, but he's also being stupid. So these two are a mess.
Yeah, they have no ability to communicate.
Which, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But I guess they're trying to point out that it's happening because they've been apart for 2 months, which also doesn't make any sense. But I guess that's what they're saying, is like now they're kind of broken and they can't connect in this short time that they have together.
So if you haven't seen your wife for 2 months, you have no idea what she's like anymore.
You've completely forgotten everything that you learned.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because, I'm sure they've not spoken. There's no phones.
Oh, that's right.
In space.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
If only they had some device that could teleport you from the station to the surface of the planet, almost instantaneously.
If only.
Yeah.
Well, out on the promenade, someone is banging a gong, and a lot of people are wandering around. There are jugglers and acrobats wearing purple. It's very festive.
I was laughing at the guy juggling the flaming sticks because I kept on picturing Odo running after him with a fire extinguisher. Put them out. They're not allowed. Put them out.
Yeah, seems dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, everyone claps when Kira takes the stage, and now we see that Dax is also wearing a purple outfit, and her spots are on full display. She is very dressed up.
Oh, yeah, she's wearing a fantastic purple outfit.
And Kira is wearing sort of browns and oranges, like a very pretty kind of sheer dress, which is over, I don't know, it's like an orange bodysuit. I don't know how to describe what she's wearing.
She's still very happy as well.
But also in this scene, we get a shot of how crazy skinny she is. I mean, they really need to let women eat.
I did not notice that. Wow.
She kicks off the festival with a bunch of Bajoran sayings, which I wrote down. Why does the universal translator know not to translate those things?
It makes more of a cultural experience.
I guess. She dumps some liquids into a thing and it starts a fire and everyone claps. And then she drops the first renewal scroll into the fire, saying, as the scrolls burn, may our troubles turn to ashes with them. We get a quick shot of Lwaxana hanging onto Odo and Odo looking annoyed. We also see Keiko and Miles up on the second level, and Keiko is yawning, and Miles is now wearing his blue and gray sexy outfit, which we covered before is his only casual outfit that doesn't indicate he's involved in rebel activity.
That's pretty funny. You've forgotten Julian, who appears to be wearing an ill-fitting pair of pajamas.
Yeah, he is definitely wearing ill-fitting pajamas. That's a good description. Well, while Kira is talking, Brielle and Dax momentarily lock eyes across the fire, and you're like, what did that mean?
Yep.
As the festival gets underway, Lwaxana and Odo walk through the crowd, and now Jake has a pain in his head, which concerns Sisko, But he says he felt funny for a second, but he's fine now. Never felt better. And he's looking at something with adoration, but we don't know what it is. Everyone is very quick to dismiss these head pains in this episode.
It's funny. It goes from grumpy teenager to suddenly he's like totally happy again.
Yeah, never been happier.
Yeah, you should know something's up at that point.
Definitely.
The other thing I like in this opening is we see more of Bajoran tradition and festival. This whole renewal process, this whole idea. It adds a little bit more of that cultural background to Bajor.
Yeah, and the people are really into it.
Yeah.
And it looks like a lot of fun. It's something they're used to doing.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure that you would leave Bajor to come to Deep Space Nine for this, but maybe.
Well, it might be people who are already working on the station, and if you're there, you might bring your family up, so they would have a flood of people coming in.
Sure. Kira and Bareil are walking through the promenade together, but Bareil seems distracted, and he seems to be looking for something. Jake comes running up to them and gives Kira a Jim Jaw stick and asks to talk to her in private. They sit down at a table, and he says that he's in love with her and asks her out. This confuses Kira so much that she does not even respond. And now we know we're in for a very peculiar episode.
Yes. Well, what's funny is when he gives her the Jum Jar stick, if you watch Bareil, it's almost like a comedy skit because he immediately wanders off into the crowd looking around.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's not at all invested in whatever's going on there.
Yeah, he's totally distracted by something. So, something is up, and already this is looking like a wacky episode.
Yeah. Now Morn and Dax are sitting in front of the fire thingy, and Dax is looking at the long scroll that he's written out, and she says she can't believe such a fun-loving guy has so many problems, and she advises him to burn his scroll quickly and not look back. So he dumps the scroll in the fire, and he leaves.
Wow, that was a pretty long list of stuff from Morn.
It was.
Nice to see him back, though.
I paused the screen to see if you could read anything on there, but I couldn't. It may have just been scribbles.
Give up drinking, give up drinking, give up drinking. Don't spend all my money on booze.
Vedic Bareil sits down with Dax and starts flattering her. He says you have such a wise, generous spirit, and he is apparently flirting with her, but it comes off as extremely creepy. He puts his hand on her knee, and she excuses herself abruptly and leaves.
Everyone is acting a little oddly.
Something's up, yeah. Well, the camera pans up to the second level where there's a little band of hippies. I don't know what else to call them.
Street musicians.
And Odo is swaying to it, and he's having a grand time when Lwaxana grabs him from behind and starts trying to dance with him. But he's very awkward with her as he's almost like a robot trying to dance. Or really, he's more like a pile of boxes trying to dance. That's what it looked like to me. He tries to run away, but of course she follows. And I noticed that she's now changed into an orange outfit, which is a little bit less showy than her previous one.
And much smaller hair.
As Odo is trying to get away, he runs into Dax and asks her if she's having a good time, but she says no. And Odo is like, yeah, me too. But after he leaves with the Lwaxana, Dax gets the pain in her head that Jake had earlier.
Now, I don't think we've ever seen Odo enjoying music before.
No, he seemed to really be having a good time.
Yeah, he was swaying away with it. So clearly, is this a change since he met the founders?
Maybe. Maybe he's found something he actually enjoys.
Wow.
Music.
Oh, that would be a first.
Yeah, you would think that he'd be trying to shoo the street performers off of the promenade, but I guess he's trying to get into it. He's trying hard.
Oh, and he's kind of off duty as well, so.
Yeah, but he still never likes anything. Especially if he feels like they're blocking a fire exit or something.
Yeah. The man's always hassling someone.
So Quark is shilling genuine latinum-plated renewal scroll inscription pens.
I love how he's wearing a Bajoran earring.
He is.
It's a giant thing as well.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Nobody seems too interested as the camera kind of pans by him and into the bar where Lwaxana and Odo are now watching the purple acrobats and some jugglers.
Those pens were blessed by Vedic Redab.
Who's dead, so you can't prove it. The camera keeps moving up to Miles and Keiko sitting at a table on the second level. And we learn that Miles hasn't sat at their table since Keiko left, which is very sweet. She talks a little about the expedition that she's on, saying it's been grueling, but she's having a wonderful time. The project is taking longer than planned, so she's going to be gone for a few extra months, which is not too thrilling to Miles. She asks if he'd be happier if she were miserable. That's a loaded question. Be careful how you answer that.
Yeah, there's no really good answer to that one other than no.
There's no good answer. but she also does something stupid by saying Sabar, one of the zoologists on the project, warned her not to tell her husband about this until after the festival, which of course now Miles is jealous.
Throw in a little jealousy.
Yeah, which is also a bit reductive of him. I mean, this is a mess. It's hard to watch, really.
Yeah.
He says he wants her to stay, but she says she doesn't even want to stay at the same table with him. So he says, fine, leave, go back to Bajor and your plants and Sabar, see if I care. I liked it when he said, go back to your plants. It's like, this is what I know about botanists. Go back to your plants.
Dysfunctional.
They're either blissful or childish and bickering, right? That's it. There's nothing in between with these two. It's very weird.
Quality writing.
Yeah, I wonder too if the people writing it have experienced a good marriage. You know, do they know how to write a good marriage? Probably not. And I get you have to try to put conflict into it, but, you know, for drama of the show. But there's so many ways to do it without just having people bicker all the time. And I can see now why there's some online hatred about Keiko. It's because she's just not written well.
Yeah, to me, it seems like bad soap opera writing.
Oh, this is worse than soap operas. I've been watching soap operas forever. This is terrible compared to that. Usually on a soap opera, the key is something happens and you don't tell anybody. That's the dumb part on soap operas, is everybody is always keeping secrets and then people are upset about secrets. But they're not usually, at least on the better ones, they're not fighting about things that are so stupid.
Yeah.
Or making up reasons to fight. That's what it feels like.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah.
And before we leave this scene, did you notice the change in the camera style here? They're doing a lot of tracking shots where they're panning in a single movement from one set of people to another. It's quite a different style than the cuts that they're normally doing. I'm trying to think. I don't think we've seen this done before. Well,
they're moving through a lot of quick things too, right? Like to show you that something is going on instead of just cutting to a whole different scene and it's two people in it, right? Because there are all these crowds and everything, you know, so they're trying to show this continuous movement and this continuing ongoing festival.
Yeah.
I kind of appreciate that it's different considering that they're trying to show something a little different.
Right.
Yeah, I did notice for sure.
I like it here because it's giving a sense of intimacy and a very much an interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
It's making the place feel small, which I find kind of works for this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Jake is searching the crowd frantically for Kira when he runs into his dad. Sisko reminds him they're hosting a gratitude dinner in the ward room, which, what the heck is the ward room? I don't think we've heard that term on here before.
It's one of the new additions Miles must have built.
Yeah, it's a military thing.
Yes.
I believe. Yeah. Well, Jake says he doesn't have time to help because he needs to find Kira. Sisko just talked to her, so he heard what happened. He tries to convince Jake it's just a crush that he has on Kira because he's hurt about Marta. But Jake says Marta was a mistake. She was too young. Major Kira is a woman. Ugh. Oh, my God. Sisko says Major Kira is in love with Vedic Bareil. And Jake says, well, that'll never last because he's always on Bajor. And he tells Sisko not to worry and he runs off. This is why it's good to expose your kids to other kids his age, right? So you get him looking at other things and not running off after somebody who's like twice his age.
It's pretty funny.
Then speaking of these sort of tracking shots through, there's more of Odo and Lwaxana just kind of wandering around together. And she's like giving him a gift and he doesn't want it. But it's not really a scene. They just are kind of walking through a scene. Then we go to Quark's and Miles is sitting at the bar. Quark is just rearranging glasses in front of him. It's like he needed something to do with his hands. He says Miles looks terrible and he gives him a free pen to write down his troubles on a renewal scroll because he's obviously not selling them.
Something's really wrong here. Quark giving away a free pen?
Yeah. Maybe he's hoping for advertisement.
Aha.
Quark says Miles' problems are his own fault. He never should have let Keiko go to Bajor. You humans never learn. You let your women go out in public, hold jobs, wear clothing, and you wonder why your marriages fall apart. Miles says, so that's your solution? Treat women like property? Quark says, well, criticize it all you want, but on the Ferengi homeworld, husbands and wives never argue. There's no broken homes, nothing but peaceful conjugal bliss. Yeah. Except for the women who have no agency at all. This is so disgusting and annoying. But I'm sure it's exactly what they want.
This is the first time, though, someone's called it out. Miles actually calls out that crap.
Yeah, but he just says the one thing. So your solution is to treat women like property? He doesn't say, like, maybe this conjugal bliss, so-called bliss that you're talking about, maybe that's one-sided. Maybe we should find out what's going on with the women. And then he asks him why he's not married, if it's so great. And Quark is like, well, I haven't met the right woman. Well, how do you meet the right woman if the women are never allowed to leave the homeworld? I don't understand that at all. And then if he got married, would she stay back on the homeworld and he would be at the bar? It's just so stupid.
I assume that you purchase your wife.
That's even worse.
Yeah, I think that's the point with Ferengi.
Ugh, okay. Let's move on.
That's entirely the point with Ferengi.
Terrible, terrible, terrible. So annoying. Well, Miles says he has met the right woman, but she just walked out the door. And then he runs out after her. And meanwhile, Quark is just standing there counting strips of latinum right out in the open on the bar. He's very cavalier about his cash when there's all these people around. I'd be very worried about people just stealing stuff.
Yeah, he's never heard the Kenny Loggins song.
Kenny Rogers.
One of the Kennys. I have no idea.
I was going to say Footloose. or Highway to the Danger Zone.
Some Kenny, I don't know.
Oh my God. Okay, that's funny.
You know how well I know country music.
Yeah, Kenny Rogers. All right, moving on. Kira, oh my God.
Moving on from the country section.
Kira is standing by one of the little fire things when Bareil comes walking by. She grabs him and tries to kiss him, but he's very standoffish. He says he has to find Jadzia, and she asks why, but he says he'll explain later. And then he runs off, and he stops, and he turns around, and he thanks her for being a good friend. And then he runs off. And Kira is like, friend? What the heck?
He is truly behaving very oddly.
Yes.
It must be kind of fun for the actor because this is such a strange version of Bareil. He's been this very reserved guy to this point and been very close with Kira, and now he's just being this really kind of wacky character. I would describe it as almost cartoonish.
Yeah, definitely. Well, now we go to the mysterious wardroom, which we've never seen before. And Sisko enters carrying a plant, and he finds Jadzia setting up the banquet table. Sisko asks why she isn't on the promenade, and she says it's because she's trying to stay away from Bareil, who can't seem to keep his hands off her. Sisko is wearing a very peculiar vest over a blue, long-sleeve t-shirt. It's a very strange outfit. The vest, it looks like a tablecloth from the 70s. It's so ugly. It's just the weirdest outfit.
The outfits in this episode seem to vary between very formal, like Jadzia's purple outfit, and Kira's kind of fun outfit, to Sisko wearing a tablecloth and Bashir in pajamas. That weren't even his. Yeah.
And meanwhile, Odo never changes his look. He always looks exactly the same. He had that belt for one episode. He should have put a belt on again for this episode.
Oh, yeah. Spice it up a bit.
Change the color. Yeah. I mean, come on. Yeah, he could have done some silky pajamas.
And Jake's outfit isn't terribly great either. It's colorful.
No, it's also pajamas. It's very colorful, but also pajamas. Well, then Dax suddenly says, how can I be interested in Bareil when it's always been you? And she makes a move on Sisko, which is very shocking. And he backs away from her as quickly as possible. And this look of sheer confusion takes over his face, which was pretty funny. And she says he smells wonderful, which makes him giggle. He thinks it's a joke, but it really isn't. She tells him to cancel the party so they can spend the evening alone together. As she tries to kiss him, Sisko calls Bashir for help, saying he's coming to the infirmary.
That was funny. The way he says, very seriously, meet him in the infirmary immediately.
Yes. And in the infirmary, Bashir is saying all of Dax's vitals are normal and there's no sign of intoxication either. When he says she's the picture of health, Dax shouts, "Told you," from behind them. That was funny.
Yes.
And then she says, it was just a joke. But she's still very close to Sisko, and he is very uncomfortable. And as they walk away, she declares her love for him again. So it's not a joke.
Seeing Sisko's discomfort is quite something.
Yeah, he's very good at it.
Although I have things to say about the episode, the one standout is Avery Brooks, because he can put a lot of emotion and feeling and set the direction of what's happening without having to say lines. He's a very good physical actor.
Oh, yeah. Except for when he does that crazy laugh.
Yeah.
That's always very awkward. I wonder if that's what it's like in real life. I doubt it, but his laugh is a little strange. He does it whenever he gets uncomfortable, and it's too forced.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the promenade, Kira is sitting at a table, annoyed, when Jake drops in next to her. She says, "Jake, do me a favor, leave me alone." And she takes off, leaving him all by himself.
Not a very happy Kira.
No. Her happiness seems to be very different from how it was at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, that kind of made me feel bad.
Yeah.
She's so on this great upswing all at the beginning. This is great because she's had so much crap happen to her through the last 3 seasons, 2 and a bit seasons. And now we've gone back downhill.
Yeah. Now we go to Molly playing with her toys, including a stuffed targ, which is that ugly wild boar-like creature that Worf had as a pet when he was a kid.
Yep.
Miles comes in and asks, "Where's Mommy?" And she says, "In her room. Sad." He tells her to go play with Piggy, who is the targ, in her room for a while, and he'll try and cheer Mommy up. So she runs off in her footy pajamas with her very scary stuffed animal. It's adorable. Miles tries talking to Keiko through the door of the bedroom, saying he can be childish and pig-headed, and he wishes he could take back the stupid things he said. He sits down on the floor and says, "Keiko, I just want you to know I love you. I always have and I always will. I've left a letter of resignation on Sisko's desk. I'll move down to Bajoran with you if you'll have me. And even if you want to go back to Earth, I'll do whatever it takes. I just don't want to lose you."
Wow, are they finally having that conversation about careers that they should have had
Yeah.
3 years ago?
It is about time. Well, she doesn't say anything, though, so he asks if she heard him, and she says she did, but she needs time to think, which that's kind of a bummer. She tells him to go to Commander Sisko's party, and they can talk later.
More comments on this in the overanalysis.
All right. Out on the promenade, Lwaxana is walking arm in arm with Odo and Bashir when they see Kira and ask her why she's not headed to the party. She said she's not going to the party because Bareil is in love with Dax, and Jake is chasing her around like a lovesick puppy. "Oh," Julian says, "that's strange." During this whole conversation where they're talking about all these weird things going on, Lwaxana is smiling and really enjoying all of this like it's just a normal day for her. It's like, oh, sure, this all makes sense.
Bashir does seem to be starting to put 2 and 2 together, though.
Finally, yeah. Well, Kira says people are really acting strangely, so Julian excuses himself to go take another look at Jadzia's test results. Odo and Lwaxana head to the party, and after they leave, both Kira and Julian get pains in their head. Uh-oh.
Yep.
They walk to the infirmary together. When they get there, they look at each other and immediately grab each other and start making out. And this really dramatic music plays into the ad break.
I meant to look up, and I didn't. I meant to look up when those two actually started dating.
Well, I don't know about dating, but they got married a few years later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? They could have been dating at this point. I don't know. Or maybe this is what sparked it.
Oh.
Well, everything's going to come together here at the party as we get to sort of the last big scene of the show. At Sisko's party, Lwaxana is pestering Odo to tell her what's wrong. She wonders why she finds stubborn men so attractive as she chases him around the room. And then Vedic Bareil comes up behind Dax and rests his chin on her shoulder and makes a loud sighing noise. She shoves him off, saying she's not interested. It was so gross.
This is what I mean about it's almost cartoonish.
Gross. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure from him. Jake is freaking out that Kira isn't there, and he keeps calling her Nerys, which Sisko's like, "Don't call her that." Sisko is so annoyed by everything. He calls Bashir, and Bashir doesn't answer. The computer says he's in the infirmary, so Sisko sends Odo to get him. And of course, Lwaxana joins him. In the infirmary, Bashir and Kira are making out and can't seem to stop. Odo and Lwaxana enter, and Odo is like, "Doctor!" The closed captions say, "moans amorously," as the two keep making out. But Odo convinces them to get to the wardroom right away.
Yeah.
Odo is very upset by this turn of events because he's like, oh my gosh, now I have another person in the way. Back to the wardroom, and Dax is now hiding behind Sisko as Bareil tries to get to her. He wants to give her a Bajoran betrothal bracelet, which then makes Dax's head pop up, and she grabs the bracelet and runs off.
That's a funny scene because
It's very funny, yes.
you can just see Dax's hands behind Sisko. It's very fast-like.
Yes. Oh, yes, this whole scene is. Kira and Julian come in, still making out like crazy. They say they can't keep their hands off each other. And then Odo comes running in behind them, and he and Sisko give each other this look of complete confusion.
Yes, it's perfect.
Odo says he can't explain it either. And then Lwaxana comes running in and grabs Odo's arms, putting them around her. At this point, he seems to have just given up, and Sisko just shrugs at him. Over in the corner, Miles is sitting by himself in the window when Jake sits down next to him. It's like, I don't even think Miles notices all this stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Jake tells Miles that Nerys doesn't love him. "Oh, you're better off," Miles says. "In the end, they just break your heart." But just then, in comes Keiko, and you knew this was coming. She's in her red dress.
Yes.
And Miles says, although sometimes it's worth it, and runs over to her. She asks if he was serious about resigning, and he says yes. So she says, you'd better get that letter back before Sisko sees it. Also, you'd think he would have emailed it, but okay. She says it was a very nice offer and kisses him.
I once faxed a letter of resignation.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why not? Did you want to talk more about that?
No.
Quark comes in now with a tray of spiced pudding, and he sees some very strange things going on. Jadzia tries to give the betrothal bracelet to Sisko, which makes Bareil so upset he punches Sisko in the cheek. Sisko, barely feeling the punch, is like, Bareil, oh man.
And the way they filmed that, Bareil is like a head shorter than Sisko.
Yes. And then when Bareil tries to hit him again, Sisko is just casually fending off the punches like it takes no effort from him.
Yeah.
But then Dax steps in the middle of them, punches Bareil in the gut a few times, and then does an uppercut to the chin, sending him flying.
Oh, yes.
This made me laugh out loud how comical this entire scene was.
Yeah, it is complete French farce.
Yes. So after punching Bareil, Dax says, he was starting to annoy me. Yeah.
You don't say.
Oh my gosh. When Quark sees Bareil on the floor, he's like, well, this is quite a party. Sisko runs away from Dax again. Quark is working the room with his tray of puddings, and when he passes Lwaxana, they both have the head thing again, which makes Quark now fall in love with Keiko. He grabs Keiko from the back and says, my ears tingle at the sight of you. Marry me. That was very fast. Miles grabs him by the ear and is about to pummel him when Sisko says he doesn't know what he's doing. And then everyone looks at Lwaxana, who says, what are you looking at me for?
Yes.
That was a comedy.
That was a comedy moment, yes.
Yep. And then we go to medical now, and Bashir tells Lwaxana she has xanthe fever, which Lwaxana says is impossible because that only affects older betazoids, which is a terrible joke.
Yep.
He tells Sisko that it's a virus impacting the empathic abilities of mature betazoids. It causes them to project their emotions onto others. Aha, Sisko says. But Julian says it only affects people in close proximity to Lwaxana when she has an attack, and even then, there has to be some pre-existing latent attraction on a subconscious level. This doesn't really make Sisko feel much better about his friend's attention. And also, this kind of ruined the entire episode for me, that line.
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid.
Yeah, I too felt that just kind of then made it sort of dumb.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they could have said something like, not necessarily an attraction on a subconscious level, but something that you're drawn to the person. Like, it could even be you respect that person, or, you know, you just really like their sense of humor, or whatever. Some positive trait could have been exploited.
Yeah, it would amplify some trait, and you'd become obsessed about it.
That would have been way better. Well, Lwaxana apologizes, and Sisko says he doesn't think any permanent harm was done. Bashir gives some medication to Lwaxana, and everyone else should be back to normal in a day or two. And then he excuses himself to meet Nerys in her quarters, but Sisko grabs his arm and says, maybe you should postpone that visit for a day or two. And he sighs. Good idea.
Yeah.
Then we go to Sisko doing a station log saying Dr. Bashir's diagnosis seems to have been correct as everyone is back to normal. Now Odo and Lwaxana are walking the promenade, and she's in yet another outfit. She says people will be talking about this gratitude festival for a long time, and Odo says he'll never forget it. She tells him that he hopes everything works out for him with Major Kira. He plays dumb, but she says, don't worry, your secret is safe with me. She says she knows what it's like to be attracted to someone who doesn't necessarily feel the same way. She says if you get tired of waiting for her, and then she kisses him very awkwardly and says, you know where to find me, and she heads out. Miles and Keiko are saying goodbye, and it turns out they were not impacted by the virus at all.
Miles just had a headache.
Molly is standing between them with her little piggy toy.
Aww.
Miles picks her up and tells her to take good care of Mommy, and Keiko leaves.
And she says, see you in a few months.
Right. And in the hallway behind Miles is Bashir, ready to play some racquetball. The end. Well, somehow a lot happened and nothing happened in this episode.
That is a very good description of this episode.
Do you have any overanalysis to talk about?
Yes, I think I do. First thing is, and this is really more a comment on the episode, I think they should have done a everybody's back to normal and kind of embarrassed section of it, which I think would have fitted with the overall theme of the episode.
Yeah.
Kind of like, remember Tasha Yar with Data?
Yeah.
And she says something like, never mention this again. That sort of thing.
Never happened. Yeah.
That would be kind of funny and I think would play into the farcical nature of this episode.
And also, they could have sort of done the full circle with Kira being happy again, but them, having a sort of weird conversation at the end. But yeah, they just dropped it.
Yeah, and I would have liked to have seen that as well.
And they could have shown Bareil with a big bruise on his face.
Yes.
From Dax punching him.
Yes, you could have continued to play into the humor of it, of, Dax being profusely sorry and apologizing to Bareil, and Bareil having a black eye or something.
Yeah.
It could have played into it, and I think they missed an opportunity there.
Yeah.
Okay, next thing. I find the whole can't get in touch with or see Keiko thing immensely annoying.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It's the worst, lamest plot device I think I've ever seen in Star Trek. It's so stupid.
They got Quark, remember in the House of Quark?
Yep.
They got him to Kronos in like 5 seconds, but they can't get to Bajor on a weekend. There's no weekends. I mean, they should be spending every weekend together. This doesn't make any sense at all.
Exactly. That doesn't work.
It's almost like they're punishing this couple for trying to have them both having careers, which is really awful from the female perspective.
Yeah, it's a little bit of messaging. It's saying you shouldn't have a career. You have a husband or a career, but you can't have both.
You can't have both, and you certainly can't be happy.
Oh, that makes it really awful if you look at it that way.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to the next thing. Moving on to something more positive.
Okay.
I believe Miles and Keiko actually have a weirdly mutual abusive relationship.
Okay. What do you mean?
I think that's actually what works for them. They both actually gain enjoyment and like this relationship because they find ways to be, mutually abusive towards each other, and each side of it gets something from that.
Well, I guess that's possible. I view it a little bit more as it's kind of a weak way of writing sort of a volatile relationship, because there are people like that who are just passionate and fight a lot, right?
Yeah.
But that's not exactly what they are. They're not quite, I wouldn't call them passionate.
Yeah, I would call it abusive.
They're really more childish. It feels immature. I'm not sure it's abusive.
Okay, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah,
other.
Describing it as a very juvenile relationship.
Yeah, it's more like a teenager relationship. Yeah.
It's just horribly written.
Makes no sense.
I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's horribly written. Absolutely.
I like Keiko and I like Miles, and I think both of them have acting skills that could make the story better. And the writing is dime novel level.
Yeah.
Does not work.
Yeah, it just shows no maturity between the two of them. And it's disappointing, really, how unlikable they make Keiko. I never understood why people didn't like her because I never watched this show.
Well,
and now as I watch it, I'm like, oh, they make her so unlikable in situations. If she had opened the door in that scene where he was talking to her through the door, if she had opened the door in the red dress, that would have been better.
Oh, that's a good take.
It's like, why did she need to think about it? I don't know.
Well, and at the same time, I find the portrayal of Miles as a working man in a marriage like that to be so single note and so much of a stereotype.
It's reductive.
Oh, his only emotions are getting annoyed or jealous about his wife. And you're like, really?
Totally.
It's so weak. And it's such a trope. And it's such a negative portrayal of what we're seeing here, which is, I believe, a working class relationship with a successful professional woman.
Yeah, I totally agree.
On that happy note, that wraps up my overanalysis.
Okay, well, let's move to women in the future. I don't like the way Lwaxana is written either. An older, sex-starved woman, the butt of jokes. And then there's also the age jokes. I mean, it's such a bummer because her best work as an actor in that episode was at the end when she talked to Odo about Kira. So she can do so much more, and she can offer so much more. She could be a great character. Like, you can give her confidence so that she's awkward in certain situations, but you don't have to make her the sex-starved older woman. It's just such a stereotype, and it's really quite humiliating, I think, for that actress to have to do that. She does it with a lot of flair, because I think she likes the humor of it.
Yeah.
But what she is maybe not seeing from the perspective of what just her character does is that it's really just quite insulting.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Also, we've talked a little bit about Keiko, but my other note here is that she's written to be a bit whiny, which I find frustrating. she knows that being away from Miles is a sacrifice for him as well. So, I don't know. She just doesn't have enough dimensions either to be a full character.
Yeah.
You don't have to be in every episode to have the dimensions of an actual human being. It can be done. But she is just very one note, and that's frustrating. Just like you were saying about Miles, he just has like 2 traits, and it's kind of the same with Keiko.
Yeah, and he can't even pick up on the fact that his wife has had a difficult trip back and is tired.
Yeah, and he just, he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She's tired. It's not rocket science. It was, okay. We've beaten that horse.
A few times.
I did, though, enjoy Dax standing up for herself and punching Bareil, because he was too handsy. And also in this episode, Kira was so happy at the beginning, right? What I like about it is you see her really embrace her heritage.
Yes.
And her traditions. And she was just so into that festival and, her job as the presider. That was really important to her, and she was really good at it, and I quite like that about her.
Oh, absolutely. It gave more depth to a character that we know is deeply religious and deeply committed to her planet and her culture. So having something like this really helps fill that out to show you what she is like.
Yeah, so I think, those are a couple of the positives, I guess, that I saw. So not all negative. Those are good things. That is all I have for Women in the Future. Let's go to rating. So thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
I wanted to give it a thumbs up, but there's so many little things that annoy me about it. I'm going with a meh.
Neutral?
Yes. It's very much a, what's the term we use? Okayest.
The okayest episode? Yeah. This is the okayest episode so far?
Yeah, so it falls under very much the okayest episode so far.
Yeah, I too wanted to like it because I disliked the previous episode so much. I will say this, if I had to choose between which of these 2 episodes to ever watch again, I would choose this one.
Really?
But I'll still, yes, because at the end of the day, it was entertaining. I mean, it was a little silly, but, I was really irritated with that last episode. It got under my skin and it couldn't get out. So
yes, it did.
Yes, it did. Well, I mean, I give it a thumbs down. I don't think it's a great episode, but there were things in it I quite enjoyed. One of the things we didn't talk about very much is that you were talking about how the actor who played Bareil, how he must really be enjoying himself, being able to do something a little different with the character.
Because it's very cartoony.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I also think this kind of exposed him as not a great actor, or maybe not that great at this character.
Yeah.
I looked him up, and his name is Philip Anglum. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I apologize if that's wrong. He was nominated for an Emmy and a Golden Globe in the 80s for his role in The Elephant Man, like a TV series.
Yeah.
He also played that role on Broadway and was nominated for a Tony, but that was all sort of the same role.
Uh-huh.
But he doesn't have much listed on IMDb. He's only got about 15 acting credits on there, and he's not on there at all since the 90s. So I don't know. He maybe, has gone off to do something else. Maybe he's, moved on to other things in life. But he is not good in this episode. I agree that little stretch of the character was kind of fun, but I don't think he was very good. I was not impressed.
Oh, okay.
I thought Dax was quite good in this episode with her, the goofy stuff that she did. I thought she was pretty good.
Yeah, she does do goofy pretty well.
She does. Well, okay. I think that is it for Season 3, Episode 10. Come back next week for Episode 11. In the meantime, if you'd like to share your own overanalysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, please email us at rebingeit@gmail.com or tweet us at rebingeit. Check us out on talkthroughmedia.com. You can leave feedback there for individual episodes, and you can also check out all the other awesome podcasts on our network.
Thanks for joining us on the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.